I'm delighted to introduce our session today, which will focus on the partnership between the Ansari Institute for Global Engagement with Religion and the organization Religions for Peace. Let me say a few words first about Religions for Peace. Religions for Peace is the world's largest and most representative multi-religious movement advancing common action for peace. Active for more than 50 years, Religions for Peace is composed of well over 90 national and 6 regional interreligious councils, IRCs, as they're known, which bring together the vast influence and resources of all the faith traditions and their spiritual commitments to peace and justice. The IRCs and related interfaith women and youth networks of Religions for Peace work at local, national, and regional levels to respond to global challenges ranging from sectarian and state violence and discrimination to environmental degradation. On August the 29th, 2019, our friend and colleague Aza Karam was the first woman to be elected as Secretary General of Religions for Peace. Aza holds a professorship of religion and development at the Vrije University in Amsterdam. She is a member of the United Nations Secretary General's High-Level Advisory Board on Effective Multilateralism. Prior to joining Religions in Peace, Aza served for nearly 2 decades in the United Nations, including as coordinator of the Arab Human Development Reports, a senior advisor on culture, and lead facilitator and trainer for the UN Strategic Learning Exchange on religion, development, and diplomacy. During her time in the UN, she founded and was convener of the United Nations Interagency Task Force on Religion and Development, as well as the Multi-Faith Advisory Council of that task force. Aza, native of Egypt, now lives in New York. She has worked internationally since the 1980s, including with the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, the OECD, and the EU, and she's taught and lectured in various academic institutions in Europe, North America, and in the Arab region. Her PhD focuses on political Islam, and it became her first book in Arab, published in Arabic and English. She has since published widely in several languages on international political dynamics, including democratization, human rights, peace and security, gender, religious engagement, and sustainable development. She's received many awards over the years, including an honorary degree from John Cabot University in Rome. Before I ask Aza to come up, I'm going to say a little bit about the partnership and then ask Aza to come forward. So the partnership between Religions for Peace and the Ansari Institute will allow the two organizations to work together on joint educational initiatives, collaborate on projects designed to advance understanding of interreligious work, and research multi-religious collaboration on human rights, peace and security, and sustainable development at various country levels. The partnership will focus on conducting joint initiatives, fostering the education of students here at the Keough School at Notre Dame, collaboration on projects to advance understanding of interreligious work, and researching multi-religious collaborative programs on human rights, peace and security, and sustainable development at various country levels. We also are delighted to be in collaboration as we present awards today for honorees in the Multi-Religious Peacemakers Award, and I now invite Aza to come up and present those honorees to us. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Appleby, for that very generous and lovely introduction. And thank you all for bearing with me as I come here while you're still trying to eat. So please enjoy, please enjoy. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Notre Dame University's Keough School, Ansari Institute, did I get that epistemology right? Great. For this opportunity to be here with you all today and to have listened and learned so much from the process of the book award and from Tyson himself and his lovely wife, who I know is the backbone and support, and I'm glad that she was able to be with us when she was able to be with us. But I'm also delighted and very grateful for the opportunity to have learned about so many different faith traditions in engagement with and in interaction with the indigenous knowledge that Tyson very beautifully shared in his book. I think that I want to commend Dr. Mahan Mirza, but also Dr. Charles Powell for the imagining and the coordination and the choreography. I know it was an incredible amount of work. We can all witness and I think pay tribute to how much work was done to make this as smooth and seamless and so caring of us and for all of us. And so please just leave the forks and knives for a second to give them a round of applause. I think a dominant theme and a subtext has been this nurture, the care. All of us, I think, felt, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of so many, that we felt not only that we were participants in a conference, but that we were members of a human family that was engaging and interacting with one another, and that was very much cared for. And that's a very special dynamic. My role here is essentially to be able to explain a little bit about why the award that we're now awarding, but also I cannot do justice to that without saying two things, just two brief points. I'll try to be as brief as possible. The first point is about interreligious dynamics more generally, and why the work of Religions for Peace is different to the mainstream interfaith dialogue that is absolutely necessary for interreligious peace building to be possible. No, you can't do interreligious peace building if we don't have a legacy, a history, and ongoing interreligious dialogue. One doesn't work without the other. But I think there's also a couple of points to share that are about the geopolitics that we are living in at the moment. And I think it's important to maybe just gently remind people that just as we're here the last few days, there's been a coup d'etat in Burkina Faso. There's an ongoing war in the Ukraine. And there are important dynamics to this. And I mention these two because there are so many others. There was a horrible earthquake and floods and natural disasters that are happening in so many different parts of the world. And I think it behooves us just to be mindful of those dynamics, not because we need more bad news or we need to be reminded of bad news, but precisely because we need to understand that what we say here today and what we do here today has to be in some way relevant to the lives of billions around the world. So what is the relevance of religion and interreligious engagement to some of that work? Yesterday we heard a bit from Dr. Renee Hattar about the engagement with refugees that the Royal Institute for Interfaith Studies deliberately embarks on and seeks to preserve, which is a very noble set of efforts. It's also not unique to any one interreligious dynamic. One of the things that we often forget when we talk about religious aspects is that the oldest social service providers known to humankind are actually religious institutions. That the first responders in any humanitarian crisis, whether man-made or indeed climate change induced, is actually religious institutions and organizations. So we think, as we sit here in Notre Dame, one of the most well-established and estimable Catholic universities, that the secular institutions happen to run our lives and provide services, when in fact it's religious institutions who have been, still are, and very likely will continue to be the original service providers, social service providers, and humanitarians. And we're going to need more of that support and effort in the years to come, because we anticipate that 80% of the global challenges humanity will be facing, common challenges, will be humanitarian in nature. And all you have to do is look around you to realize that the damage we've done to our environment is costing us greatly and will cost us more as we continue. So effectively, we are going to need to rely more on religious institutions and the religious infrastructure, not less, especially as we talk of contexts where governments or states are increasingly finding it hard to fulfill that very basic social service contract that they have with their citizens. And by the way, that they have with their citizens does not take into account the almost 80 million stateless people that we are now confronting and facing as a very real reality. 80 million stateless people. That's more than the population of a whole bunch of countries put together. So I think we need to be appreciative of the fact that, yes, we speak about religion, we try to honor religion, and knowledge production is a critical aspect of that. But we also have to understand and be mindful of how it is that we work with different religions together and serve them as they serve the rest of us. Because at the end of the day, it's religious institutions who are the original service. Now, I've heard a lot of questions asked based on the excellent discussions that were raised in the course and the context of this, of the book that we have been privy to learning about. One of those questions that seems to have been raised repeatedly is, what can we do about all this? So here we are, we speak about religion, we talk interreligious dialogue, what are we going to do? What can we possibly do? And I'm sorry to say this in a slightly rude way, but we've been doing a lot of work about this for a long time. We're not going to invent interreligious collaboration today or tomorrow. In fact, interreligious collaboration is the oldest game of humanity for the longest period of time. So we can't argue and say that religious institutions and organizations and networks are the oldest social service providers without appreciating that they're also the oldest mechanism of social cohesion and coexistence known to humankind. They've had to work together. But something else is happening and is intruding, and it has to do with those examples that I gave of Burkina Faso and of Russia, Ukraine. What is that? It is a context where a very senior religious cleric of the Russian Orthodox Church, which is one of the largest and most well-established churches in the Orthodox community, happens to endorse a war on other peoples. Not the first time in history by any stretch of the imagination, not the first time at all, but singularly noticeable because here we see, and we're all privy to this dynamic of a war that is being leveraged by one UN member state against another, ostensibly sovereign state, that is endorsed by a very senior religious leader of a very major religious institution. It's not the first time, but it is noticeable because we're all focused on Russia and the Ukraine, sometimes at the expense of every other conflict. But that's one example that I think we are all too quick to mention, to remember, and to critique. The reason I mentioned Burkina Faso is because it's another instance on the exact opposite stream, where we know that the military has done a second coup within the course of a few months, and that it's actually the religious leaders, who are all, by the way, members of the Interreligious Council of Religions for Peace, Interreligious Council in Burkina Faso, that it's the religious leaders who have rallied and mobilized to be de facto a diplomatic space of governance to try to mediate the relationship between the military and a very, very disturbed, very upset, very insecure populace. It's the religious leaders who are talking to the media to try to put into perspective what is happening. It's the religious leaders who are together speaking to their populations and trying to calm things down and trying to make sure that essential services remain delivered to the different already vulnerable peoples in their respective communities, and they're doing this together. So in fact, if we want to talk about keeping the social fabric in the midst of political upheaval, we can see and identify that the Burkina Faso religious leaders are doing precisely that, the exact opposite of egging on a war. And that's precisely why interreligious work is massively critical. And it's already happening, and it needs to be supported. Now, we have situations and instances where we see that some of the most well-established, the largest religious institutions around the world are, as I said, the original service providers, the original first responders. And they're always serving everyone. Very few religious institutions say or close their doors when others come to them who are not sharing the same religious belief. I know of none, by the way. They all serve whoever needs. But clearly, it's not enough. There is a massive difference between each individual religious institution or religious community or religious NGO serving everyone, and between all of them serving all of them together. And that's the tipping point that we need to get to. We need to make sure that we can continue to support interreligious or multi-religious efforts that are geared towards serving communities together. It's not the individual service. Remember, you can't ask people who are already performing at 110% to perform more, but you can ask them to collaborate with one another. And that's precisely what Religions for Peace has been doing through its interreligious councils for the last 52 years. But COVID has created a very uncomfortable reality. A reality in which the global insecurity and fear that COVID instilled, because it's also happening at a time when we are facing very serious existential climate crisis, the fear and insecurity created has made even religious institutions prefer to work separately, prefer to work alone. The idea of working together is an idea that is radically threatening. And the support that we seek for that kind of multi-religious collaboration has effectively diminished, because each religious denomination wants to give to its own institution. They don't see why they should give to a multi-religious act of collaboration. And the fact that they don't see why they should give to multi-religious collaboration, that, to me, is the danger. That is a pandemic of its own, that we cannot see why we should invest our precious resources in multi-religious humanitarian efforts, that instead we would prefer to invest in our own respective institutional efforts. And that pandemic we have to be conscious of and aware of, and we see it in the context of Religions for Peace. We've heard a lot about humility, but there's nothing that can induce humility more than the act of having to serve together without anyone getting the full credit. Therein lies the real humility. It's not going to be one institution's credit of service, because remember that the act of service can be also an act of arrogance. We assume that the act of service per itself is going to be an act of humility. Not necessarily. Acts of multi-religious service demand a humility all and of themselves, because they demand us not to take credit for our particular institution, our particular religion, our particular self, or our particular identity. Multi-religious collaboration to serve everyone ensures two things. One, that we don't have any particular kind of fundamentalism or triumphalism of any one particular religion. There's no room for it, because we have to collaborate to serve together. And two, that no one gets the credit, and therefore we're all humble about what we're doing. And that's why multi-religious action is not just a luxury, but it's a necessity for social cohesion. It's a necessity for facing the multiple pandemics. I shared with you how challenging it is to get anyone to invest in multi-religious actions and collaborations. It's not that we don't have the regulations, it's not that we don't have the conventions, it's not that we don't have the institutions, it's not that we don't have the practice, we do, all of the above. What we don't have is the will to invest in each other. And that can only happen when we find champions and leaders. And that is why when the dream that Mahan shared some months ago about a book prize that would help us see and reflect and think together from our different religious perspectives about that which serves us all, that's why that book, when we heard about the book prize, we jumped as Religions for Peace, because we said we want to do exactly the same. We want to be able to honor those who have selflessly given to multi-religious collaboration. These people deserve to be honored because they are few and far between, and literally a handful right now. And we can speak from the perspective of Religions for Peace because we do 92 interreligious councils around the world who do everything from public health to humanitarian relief to politics and negotiations, mediation, disputes. They do it all. And I can tell you that multi-religious investment isn't happening. It is not happening. There's lots of efforts to bring people together, to convene, to have meetings, to have dialogue, which is, as I said in the beginning, is absolutely essential, but insufficient. At the end of the day, we have to invest in one another. And that's why acknowledging the work of those who have given, some of them for decades, is actually not only a kindness, it's a necessity. When we acknowledge and recognize those who give of themselves, from the fruit of their own hard labor, from the sweat of their brow, so to speak, but they don't give it to their own institutions, they don't give it to their own religions, they don't give it to their own countries, they give it to the world. And they never ask what happens as long as they know that it's being served and is being honored. People like that deserve our respect. And the least we can do is to acknowledge and recognize their efforts. Today, together with the Notre Dame University's Keough Schools, Ansari Institute, we are honored to give an award, just that very bare and basic recognition, to 3 amazing people who have shown their trust and their willingness to invest in multi-religious service for peace in its largest sense. Our first honoree is Dr. Aruna Oswal. Dr. Oswal is a woman, a Jain. She's the chairperson of something called the Abhay Oswal Group and Trust. She's a vice president of the World Jain Confederation, and she's a board member of a number of different institutions. We're delighted to be able to call her a co-president and international trustee of Religions for Peace in India and globally. Dr. Oswal is a magnetic personality, an entrepreneur, a global philanthropist, and a social activist with a will of iron and a heart of gold. Dr. Oswal heads the flagship company, the Oswal Group, popularly known in the humanitarian service industry. Since receiving her MA in English, she has supported this Shri Abhay Oswal in building up the Oswal industries. She is an entrepreneur and a businesswoman. And she has been elected as leader of her district multiple times. Hers is a commitment to fellowship and service, and especially to women's empowerment through multi-religious actions. She's the recipient of multiple awards, including the Jain Ratna Award, which was awarded to her by the Prime Minister, Shri Atabhi Bajpai. I probably butchered that word, I'm so sorry. But she's also been honored by the worthy hands of the former president, Honorable Shri Abdul Kalam. There's a whole list of awards, which I'm not gonna read. So it's not exactly like she needs our award, but we want to award her. We demand that we give her the recognition for having supported multi-religious collaboration in Religions for Peace through Religions for Peace's 92 interreligious councils for almost a decade. Now, the other person we are going to award today is another woman, a Buddhist in this case, Reverend Kosho Niwano. Reverend Kosho Niwano is president-designate of a Buddhist organization in Japan called Rissho Kosei-Kai, which is also a global organization, Buddhist organization. She's a co-moderator, that means she's a co-chair of Religions for Peace, and she serves on our executive committee. She's a president-designate because her father still lives and is still the president of Rissho Kosei-Kai. And if any of you do not know of Rissho Kosei-Kai, I strongly recommend that you read up on it because it's the only Buddhist organization that is global in scope and nature and is committed to selfless service. They were co-founders of Religions for Peace 52 years ago because the Buddhism that they espouse is a Buddhism that says that in order to be a Buddhist, one has to serve and serve others without knowing what is being given, but give and give and give and serve. And that way of serving all, regardless of any kind of distinction, is the way to realize the peace that is at the heart of the Buddhist philosophy. Reverend Kosho Niwano was born in Tokyo and has received 2 years ago her master's degree from Sophia University. She also actively promotes interreligious cooperation domestically and internationally. She is a counselor of Shinshuren, which is the Federation of New Religious Organizations of Japan, and a board of director of Religions for Peace Japan, our affiliate there. But as well, she's on the board of directors of KAICID, which is the King Abdullah International Center for Interreligious and Intercultural Dialogue. Most specifically, she has authored many things, but most specifically, one of the books that we love to showcase is the one that she wrote about the Buddha in everyone's heart. Perhaps before I move us to our third and very distinguished, and the only one who was able to be here in person, awardee, the very, very respected Dr. Abdul Ilah Rafie Marafie, who is here. Let me just say a little bit about Dr. Marafie. His title is the Chief Patron and Trustee of Marafie Foundation, and he's an international trustee of Religions for Peace. He's from Kuwait, and he is the foundation that he heads. The foundation has offices in Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, and Morocco. The foundation also runs charity works in Afghanistan and Somalia through locally approved charity organizations. No, none of that. We're going to do things from New York and Washington, D.C., and London and Berlin. It's local, and that's one of the key things about Religions for Peace. Our work is locally owned, locally everything. Dr. Abdullah Marafie was born in 1954 into the Marafie family, one of the ancient merchant families of Kuwait. After his secondary school education, he completed his studies in business management. In 1975, he joined the family-run business and found time, I don't know where from, to assist with the Marafie Foundation activities, which is a family-run charity establishment. He has very closely worked with his father and developed a deep interest in charity activities. This resulted in the family entrusting him to manage the Marafie Foundation. After the demise of his father in 1976, he's been actively involved in the management of the foundation as its chief patron and trustee. In Baltistan, which is the northeast region of Pakistan, an area which is still underdeveloped, the foundation adopted this area and completed around 1,000 projects consisting of schools, clinics, community centers, and more. And another 300 projects are planned for the next 5 years. He is also an associate of many non-governmental organizations in Kuwait, including the Kuwait Transparency Society, which was an organization fighting against corruption. He has had to pay dearly for his position on transparency and democracy. And he still remains a very steadfast champion. Presently, he's the chairman of the First Hotels Co., which is an owning company of Radisson SAS Hotel Kuwait. Anybody has a problem with Radisson SAS, there's the man to talk to. And he also serves as a member of the board of the directors of the Marafie Group of companies. These three people, Dr. Abdul Ilah Marafie, Reverend Kosho Niwano, and Dr. Aruna Oswal, are being recognized today for their selfless service and giving to Religions for Peace, which means not giving to an institution or an organization, but giving to multi-religious services worldwide. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. Dr. Marafie, can you please join me on here? And may I please ask Mahan to please join us? We're going to now watch a video, and then we're going to have a conversation with Dr. Oswal and Dr. Marafie. But first we will watch the video.
この度はノートルダム大学アンサリー世界宗教研究所多宗教による平和構築に向けた生涯功績賞をいただき、心より感謝申し上げます。謹んでお受けいたします。先日、アザカラム Religions for Peace 国際事務総長が来日した際に、この賞を授与いただきましたが、この賞は私個人としてではなく、立正厚生会の代表としていただいたものだと思っています。なぜなら、諸宗教との対話や共同といった平和活動は、私の祖父であり、Religions for Peace の創設者の一人である、立正厚生会会祖庭野日教が心血を注いで取り組んできたものであり、その活動を支えてくださる会員の皆様のご理解、ご協力があって、そして祈りの中でこそ、今日まで進められてきたものだからです。現在では対話の重要性が広く認識され、宗教に限らず あらゆる分野において、それなしには永続的な発展は望めないと考えられるほど国際的な潮流になっています。Religions for Peace は創設当初から対話を大切にしてきましたが、対話とは意見を交わして相互理解を図っていくことです。けれども私たちにはある事柄に対して意見の違うことがあります。対話によってその違いを超え、合意できることも多くあります。しかし仮に同意できないとしても、意見が違うことをそのまま認め、相手を言いまかしたり排除したりせず、意見が違うということに同意する、同意できないということに同意するという姿勢を大切にしています。あることに対して全員が同意できなくても、互いを信頼し、平和のために協力できるところを見つけ出し、共に働くことは可能です。多宗教による平和構築には、多くの時間と多額の資金が必要ですが、資金を拠出する側からは成果を示すよう求められます。資金を得るには成果を出さなければならない。しかし一方で、成果の出にくい、人々から見向きもされない、何の得にもならないようなことや、埋もれている苦しみに向かい合うことが、神仏から託された宗教者の使命であり、役割であると言えます。今も世界中で多くの人の平和が、そして命とその尊厳が脅かされています。自分とは国も宗教も話す言葉も違う人々、そして実際には出会うことすらない人々にも心を寄せること。世界の苦しみや痛みを自分ごととし、私に何ができるかと問い続けながら力を尽くしてまいります。ノートルダム大学アンサリ世界宗教研究所並びにReligions for Peaceの関係者をはじめ、平和のために祈りを捧げ行動するすべての皆様に感謝申し上げ、ご挨拶とさせていただきます。ありがとうございました。
Thanks very much for your patience in watching that video. Actually, thanks to the support of her community, just earlier, late in September, we were able to convene about 35 religious leaders, including from Ukraine and Russia, but also from Burkina Faso, from Ethiopia, from a number of other conflict settings, around a table with one another to have a conversation about what it'll take for them right now, as they are right smack in the middle of this conflict, of these conflicts, what it will take for them to actually still continue to work with one another, and what they're already doing to serve their respective communities, because they don't stop. Religious leaders who are serving their communities don't suddenly stop because there's a conflict. In fact, they go into a much more active, they start working more. So we wanted to hear from them, and they heard from one another and learned from one another, because we believe that at the end of the day, the knowledge is inherent within the religious communities themselves. They don't need to be lectured about it from different consultants who are based in the Western Hemisphere, but they actually have a lot to learn from one another. And this is something that was possible thanks to Reverend Kosho Niwano's support. So thank you for acknowledging her alongside me. I already gave her, when I was in Tokyo, was able to hand her her award. So there's no pictures required for that. But we do want to hear from Dr. Oswal, if she's online. Is she online? She is online. Wonderful. Perhaps we can show her, and then I can nominally hand her. It'll have to be sent. Dr. Oswal, wonderful to have you with us. Thank you so very much for joining. It's a great privilege and an honor to have you. We know that you would enlighten us with a few words on the reception of this award. May I show it to you? Can she see me? Would she be able to see me? No. Yes? Oh, wonderful. I'm going to show you your award, Dr. Aruna, so bear with me for a second. So first of all, it comes in this box, right? But, thank you. Once you open the box, and by the way, this is actually the award that will be physically thankfully, hand it over to Dr. Marafie. But join with us here. Which way am I supposed to look? There you go. Thank you. I got it. Thank you. So the award says, woohoo, Religions for Peace, Ansari Institute for Global Engagement with Religion, and Ansari Institute, honor and give thanks to. In your case, it's going to say Dr. Aruna Oswal, Abe Oswal, for stellar leadership and contributions to multi-religious peace in every corner of the world, literally. And the date. Dr. Oswal, we want to say thank you very much for your effort. Yes, please. Now I can please ask you to say a few words, Dr. Aruna.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Azza Karam and Ansari University for giving this great opportunity to me. Very prestigious award, which everybody, wants that, crave for. So thank you very much to all the leadership of Religion for Peace for conferring this award to me. I was looking at my journey for Religion for Peace. As rightly said by Azza Karam, that from decades now, I have been there as a co-president. I am representing my religion, Jainism. But this is not only Jainism I'm talking about. As rightly said by Azza Karam, our Secretary General, that this is for globally. The efforts are only globally. And but I have looked into religion in a very different part of way. When I joined RFP, I was only belonging to Jainism. But my whole, idea of joining Religion for Peace was to work globally, to meet all the religions together, to all the interfaith leaders together. So I'm so happy that I was given the opportunity to join RFP, and I have been able to expand my horizons globally for humanitarian efforts, or maybe for some interfaith, for bringing peace, for bringing faith, love, and hope for the people who need. As I know from this Religion for Peace, decades long back, religion is one of the ways, most fundamental ways, that individuals and communities organize their lives. Religion brings people together when there is a need for growth. Like a little newborn baby, everyone knows that he is a newborn, but we want him to grow very nicely, very healthy, and very good stature. In the same way, religion brings people together because they want to grow both in faith and both in belief. Religion has historically influenced India because Indian society, as we know, on a political, cultural, and economic level, there is a sense of pride associated with countries' rich religious history as the traditions of Hinduism. We have Buddhism, we have Sikhism, and we have Jainism. When people work together on a common project, on a common platform, whether it is for bringing peace or whether it is for humanitarian efforts, this helps to build friendships, irrespective of people's backgrounds. Over time, these friendships widen and develop into strong, socially conscious, and thriving local communities based upon trust and respect. Why I'm talking this? Because I have gone to, when I joined RFP, Religion for Peace, long back, I really knew about what religion is about. It is not that we are just sitting together talking about our religion. Bring peace together, how we can do together a lot of things for the people who need them globally. And I have always seen that Religion for Peace has been a catalyst. It is working as a catalyst, a candle of hope for all who need in this world, hope for everyone, hope for the children, hope for the poor women, hope for the oldest people. So I'm so happy that today Ansari University has partnered with RFP, our Religion for Peace, and it is definitely going to be a great partnership. Because if I talk about my trust, Aruna Oswal Trust, we're doing the same globally. I'm a part of International Lions Foundation since 34 years. I'm on a very prestigious post now there as a board of trustee. So since 33 years, we have been working the social projects. So I'm very confident that with this partnership of Ansari University, it is going to grow. And I would like to ensure that to our Professor Azza Karam and all the leadership, that in future, we need to take more projects, more humanitarian partners, more projects, so that we can, spread ourselves globally. I have a story to tell. I was talking about that, if we are rising a candle of hope. We are a candle of hope. Religion for Peace is a candle of hope. 4 candles are burning together. And they're talking to each other, whispering with each other. One candle starts to put herself off. That was a candle of peace. She said, there is no peace in this world. Let me put myself off. She switches herself off. The second candle, who is a candle of faith, she also thinks, what I'm doing here? There is no faith. People are fighting with each other. Let me also go off. She also switches her off. The third candle, which represents love. She also thinks, when peace is not there, faith is not there, why love is there? Let me also go off. She also switches her off. The child who had burned out candles, he entered the room. When he saw that all the 3 candles are not burning, he starts crying. The one candle which is burning, she says, don't cry, my child. I am a candle of hope. With this candle, we will burn the candle of love. We will burn the candle of peace. We will burn the candle of faith. This is what I'm talking about. Religion for Peace is a candle of hope. We all leaders can make it a candle of hope. So I'm very confident. You have given me this award today. I'm really humbled and honored, Azza. Really, I'm humbled and honored that you have thought of me for giving this prestigious award to me. And I'm really, really telling you from my heart, it will go a long way, because I always believe it is not important to go to heaven from this earth. It is not important to go to heaven from this before we leave. It is not important to go to heaven before we leave. It is important to create heaven on this earth before we leave. Let us create heaven. Let us do something for society. Let us do something for the humanity. And with these projects, with these partnerships, definitely we're going to do lots and lots of work. And I can assure from my side, from Aruna Oswal Trust, definitely, if anything we can do, please let us know so that we can also do together a lot of good things, which RFP is working for. And I would like to congratulate all the awardees who have got award, or 2 of them, that they have done wonderful work in their own spheres. And I'm sure it will continue. These awards always make you, inspire you, motivate you to do more and more. Same is happening with me today. I'm awakened today because of this award. This is a great inspiration, motivation for me. And I'm sure that in future, I'm going to meet you in person, Azza. I really wanted to meet you in person because when I joined, Dr. Wendley was there at that time, Secretary General, long back. But I couldn't meet you because of COVID situation, we couldn't see each other. But I'm very confident in near future, I'm definitely going to see all of you in person. I would like to once again thank each one of you for this beautiful award, prestigious award to me, and it will go a long way, I can assure you. And in the end, I can only say, pages of yesterday cannot be revised. Pages of yesterday cannot be revised, but pages of today and tomorrow are blank. So hold a pen and write an inspiring story, because today's story will become history tomorrow. Thank you very much. Let us create history. Let us be a part of interfaith organizations. Let us be a part of RFP. And I'm proud to be a part of RFP. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Thank you.
Aruna ji, can you just stay on the screen while I symbolically hand you this? And can somebody please take a picture? That would be... Thank you.
Thank you.
So we go to our very dear and the one man who's traveled with his wife for I don't know how many hours, almost a whole day, I think, to be able to be with us here. 22 hours, there you go. To be able to be with us, Dr. Marafie, we very much appreciate you. We appreciate that you took this trouble and expense to be with us here today. And we also very much recognize and appreciate your effort to be with us. May I just do the formal handover of this? We can still keep it on the stand. Once you have formally received it, it'll be presented by both of us. There you go. And yes. Thank you very much. I'll take it on the stand. Shukran. Thank you. Very good. And Tyson will be happy to know we're still using the sand. Right. So, Dr. Marafie, please, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to everyone. I really enjoyed being with you the last couple of days. I would like first to thank the Notre Dame University, Ansari Institute, my colleagues, Dr. Mahan, Dr. Charles, and all distinguished guests are here. I really appreciate this generous hospitality I had the last couple of days. Usually when we travel in the long trip, I mean, this is the first time for me in my career since the 50 years traveling, the first time I traveled for 22 hours. It is tiring, but in Arabic we say that if you are tired from something and then you see in front of you something else, you throw all your tiredness in your back. Because I met my colleagues, my friends in humanity of every part of the world, all the religions, I'm really happy to be with you here and receiving this award from this unique university. I'm from a merchant family in Kuwait, and you know, as maybe in many countries in our part in the Middle East, if you are a businessman and you have money, it is your duty to help the others in need, irrespective of any kind of religion. In humanity, this is important for us. That's why my father established himself, his foundation, maybe more than 60 years ago. And when he passed away, we started to continue and we expanded. I mean, the region for him was maybe Kuwait, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and this area. But when we joined, we decided to establish our foundations in different area where we trust people, because the money you have, if you give it to somebody trustable, then you can achieve your goals. Otherwise, this money, people consider that this money is from God, so we can just play with it. We established our foundation in Pakistan, the North Pakistan, what's called Gilgit-Baltistan. It is the big area of, mountainous. This is people, they go there for to climb K2 Karakoram chain of mountains. So we went there because we know that this area needs education, health and education. When we arrived there in 1987, the first time when they met us, the nobles of the area, we had some professor from Karachi University with us. They speak perfect Arabic and Urdu. They were telling us that, asking about for what they are coming, because we are dressing our custom, the Kuwaiti dress, the Arabic dress. So what they're doing, these infidels? Infidels? What kind? We are coming to help you. We are Muslim. You are Muslim. Then my brother, my younger brother, he speaks perfect Urdu. So he went to the head of them. He said, "Thank you very much. Yes, we are infidels because we don't have beard, and because we left our families. And it is the last 10 days of Ramadan, which will end with an Eid festival, so all we have to be with our families." Then all of them, they felt sorry what they did, because we talked to them, number one, that we are coming for education of girls. Girls' education for them, it was like killing them. Alhamdulillah, now we have more than 380 schools in that area, boys and girls. We have more than 40,000 students are in these schools, and we support them. And now we are constructing one of the biggest hospitals there. It's all charity from my family and from people of Kuwait. And we will have the first opening, the phase 1 opening in next year in March or April. So here we, as a contributor to the world charities organizations, for us it's important to be attached also to the interfaith dialogues. It's important for us to support such activities, and I'm really very thankful for Professor Azza that she is with us always, and I'm with them also since I joined them in 2004. From Kyoto, I'm attending all their conferences and congresses, from Kyoto to Amman, to Istanbul, to Vienna, to Lindau, to Morocco, all of them, because I enjoy seeing people from different faith and different religion, because if we don't sit and talk to each other, we don't want to convince. It's not a matter that I have to convince you to become Muslim or you convince me to become a Christian or, no, no, no. We have to live in harmony. We have to live in peace. Now, a big challenge for us is that our mother Earth, our planet, is under huge devastation because of the catastrophes, whether it is by nature or it is by human. That we are suffering the wars in many countries, which we have to continue to sit together to dilute these differences, because this is very important for continuity of our life. We consider that God created us to live together. We are all in this hall. We are all brothers, sisters, cousins, outside also brothers and cousins, because we have one father and one mother, Adam and Eve. We are all from them. So why we should always think that we are different? I'm different than you. I am rich, you are poor, you are a doctor, you are a laborer. It is all, we are equal. We have to be always equal. So for me, it is an honor to receive such a nice award from my colleagues, and I think this will make me to continue my effort in Religion for Peace. The continuity is part of our initiatives for the future, and I hope that every one of you is carrying the same thinking of living together in peace and harmony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Marafie. I believe, thank you for explaining your intentions and the desire that you have to serve others and also to serve interreligiously.
Yeah, so it's time to conclude this symposium. I just want to say, you know, we've talked a lot about knowledge, that it's not between just here and the lips, but there's something in the heart or even the belly. But that's still incomplete. With Religions for Peace, it extends to the limbs, and it's complete, where the work is done. So knowledge that sits idle is useless and maybe even destructive. We have to put what we know into action. Imam al-Ghazali wrote, Ma'yar al-ilm wa mizan al-amal. So ilm wal-amal, like knowledge and service. And what I think captures what we've been doing throughout this whole symposium, I'm reminded of a poem by Muhammad Ali. He was asked to say a poem. This is when Parkinson's was overtaking him. And he couldn't speak with a lot of ease and facility. So they put the microphone in his face and he said, we. That was it. And which is, of course, Ubuntu, I am because we are. And so you make us complete, or at least more than what we could be without each other. So thank you so much, and congratulations. Just some concluding words, very brief. This symposium has been part of this year's President's Forum at the University of Notre Dame on building a culture of peace. The signature event of this series takes place tonight at Notre Dame Stadium in a powerful, this is how they describe it, powerful theatrical experience that invites you into a global discussion about the war in Ukraine and in many other parts of the world. The Suppliant of Ukraine, that's the event, tonight at 7 p.m. at Notre Dame Stadium. At this point, all I can say is thank you, first of all, to our faculty and staff behind the scenes, the events team at the Morris Inn, and our small but scrappy team at the Ansari Institute. We are the Fighting Irish. Dr. Alex Shu, Erica Loading, Josh Stowe at the helm, and Dr. Charles Powell. Thank you. I also want to mention Charlie Pine, who's not formally a part of our team, but he's been helping so much driving people around. There he is, Charlie. Thank you, Charlie. And thank you to all the panelists and special guests, to Dr. Azza Karam and Religions for Peace for your wonderful work and for the partnership, to Tyson Yankaporta and his lovely family, to our Dean, Scott Appleby, for his trust and support, and to the Ansaris and Nasrs who have made all of this possible. The symposium is now adjourned. Farewell.